All right, welcome to the Get Hoptimized Podcast. I am Chris, and we are back in 2026, and we've got a really great guest lined up for today. We're hanging out with Marty Nachel. Marty's kind of, a well-known guy here in the industry, which is why I'm so excited to talk to him. He's been writing about craft beer since like the 80s, I think, and you might
Yes.
know some of his stuff, like Beer Across America, Beer for Dummies, Home Brewing for Dummies, among many other things. You've probably seen his name on the author slot in books you've read or have on your shelf. He's also a certified beer judge and has judged for all the big ones throughout the years. But now he runs the American Craft Beer Hall of Fame, which is all about celebrating the people who built the craft beer industry. Marty's a legend. We're very happy to have him on the show. Marty, what is up, dude?
Thank you very much for that. Very flattering. I don't know that I deserve all that, but appreciate it just the same.
Yeah, you deserve it, man. Yeah, dude. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for your time. I don't know how many people are out there that don't know who you are, but maybe let's start there and give us your story, man. I mean, maybe I'll start here. Is like, how did you like start writing for beer? Why did you start writing for beer? And take us way back when I don't even know what was popular in the 80s, stuff. So
Yeah.
tell us the story.
All right. So I started getting into beer. I actually discovered good beer in 1982 with my wife and I took a quick trip. I live near Chicago, and my wife and I took like a 4-day weekend up to Toronto, and we blew into town with no plans at all. And we went to the local tourist office and said, okay, we're here. What do we do? And she said, well, have you been to the top of the CN Tower? It's like, no. She goes, do that. We did. She said, are you hockey fans? We said, of course we are. Well, there's NHL Hall of Fame. So of course we checked that out too. She said, and as we were walking out the door, we thought that was enough to keep us busy. As we are walking out the door, she said, have you ever been to a brewery? We're like, no, what you got? And she says, well, the oldest brewery in all of North America, the Molson Brewing Company, is right here in Toronto. She said they give tours on Saturdays. Well, it just happened to be Saturday. So we took that tour, had never been in a big brewery like that. It was cavernous. And at the end, of course, they brought us all into a little tasting room, and they set us up with, I don't know, 6 or 8 different beers that they were serving, going from light to dark. And anyway, I had never tasted beer that fresh, and I
Hmm.
had never tasted anything. The very last beer we were served was Molson Porter. I had never tasted a porter in my life. When I got to that beer, after tasting all the others, I'm like, I can't go back to what I was drinking, which, by the way, was old style. I don't know if your listeners know what that is. Essentially like a Budweiser, Miller, that kind of beer. But that was life changing. That was 1982. When I got back to Chicago, I learned of a group called the Chicago Beer Society. I joined them immediately in '84, became a home brewer in 1985, became a BJCP beer judge in 1986, the very first year I was eligible. And by 1987, I had my first freelance article published in All About Beer magazine. And from there, it was, hit the ground running. You couldn't stop me. I wanted more, more, more.
Wow. Wow. Man, so you were really there, if you think about craft beer and its time in America, back then not so popular, right? Still very early on for popularity. And it sounds like, funny enough, your journey into American craft beer started in Canada. Funny enough,
Right,
you
right.
know.
But yeah, I mean, it was just that single instance. But once I got back to town, I dove in head first. Um, you're right about as far as craft beer goes, there weren't that many craft beers of any kind around. Basically, it was Anchor, it
Mhm.
was Sierra Nevada. I don't know if you remember Boulder. That was the
No.
thing back then. So that was actually one of my favorites. And then, of course, I was diving deep into all the imported beers that were available at the time. Those helped me to learn beer styles, and so it was kind of between imported beer and craft beer. That's how I cut my teeth, and moved forward as more craft breweries came online and started filling the market. Then, of course, my interest was 100% in that direction. So.
What's like the nodes, along the journey here and the differences that you've seen from, the the fledgling days of a handful of these breweries being around to now there's, almost 10,000 breweries throughout the country. Is there anything that you look to and say, yeah, these are kind of some big turning points or key things that happened along the way for the industry here?
I don't know how many of your listeners are going to remember back to about 95-ish. Craft beer started getting very big in the late 80s and early 90s. But unfortunately, a lot of people who knew nothing about beer, they were basically investors, they were bankers with money. They saw an opportunity to pillage, it was what I call
Mm.
it. They came into the market with all of these brands. They didn't build breweries, they built brands. So they flooded the market with all these brands that were subpar, they were mediocre at best, but they kind of stole the whole concept of craft beer away from the legitimate craft breweries. And what happened was subsequently in mid late 90s, there was a little bit of a crash. If you take a look at it on a graph, you can see it goes up into mid 90s, then it dips again, and then it takes off as we get into the 2000s.
Mm.
And so I think that was one of the big early jolts that happened to the industry. What it did though is it weeded out the fakers from the real deal, the real
Yeah.
McCoys.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure if um, Warren Buffett said this or not, but I quote him saying it is that I think he said this. I see the memes and this kind of stuff that he said it, but so if he didn't say it, I apologize. But I'm paraphrasing a bit, saying that you find out who's been swimming naked when the tide goes back out to sea. And it's a funny quote, but it's also a good quote for like markets. And it's like,
Sure.
yeah, you really do find out who's been faking it when things get tight or the
Yeah.
bubble finally wanes. Do you think there's a similar thing going on now, with craft beer and this huge surge that happened in really 2016 through
Hmm.
basically the
Hmm.
start of COVID, and now we're kind of seeing some correction happen. Breweries are closing. There's less of them out there, less are surviving. Think that's similar to what was going on in the 90s, or do you think it's a different scenario?
It's a different scenario because the people who got in the 90s, they knew nothing about beer. And I mean, literally nothing. They just had gobs of cash that they would go to a brewery with excess capacity and say, brew this beer for us, put our name on it, and we'll
Mm.
make $1 million. Again, they knew nothing about beer. They were taking advantage of the opportunity and surreptitiously brewing craft beer, and we all knew it wasn't. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're long gone, thank God.
Yeah, different scenario now. I think so. It's a little bit different. I mean, COVID had a humongous impact on the industry and a little bit of correction since then. But it feels like, the industry will make it through. There's a lot of good folks out there that are brewing good beer, that have their heart in the right place. And, at the end of the day, it is a business, right? People are trying to make
Sure.
money. They got to pay bills. And,
Bottom line.
you can love it all you want, but if you can't pay your bills with it, then
Right,
it's hard to
right.
sustain with it. Yeah, but you're a home brewer too. You still homebrew now?
I do not. I started in 85 and I gave it a good 30 years of my life. When I was reaching, I'm 67 right now. So when I reached about 60, I kind of reevaluated where I was in my home brewing career. And I realized that the overall quality of beer had really risen considerably, and my own beers were not keeping pace. So I was at that juncture. I said, look, I either have to reinvest in all my equipment, all brand new stuff, because I've been using the same stuff all those years, or I just say I call it a day and move on. And I decided to move on, and I'm fine with that because I continue to be involved at some level in the home brewing industry as well as the craft beer industry. But I also remind myself that all the money that I would have spent on the equipment and the ingredients to brew all these beers, I'm now supporting all my local breweries.
Hmm.
And I don't mind running up a tab there because, there's
I
money I
like
didn't
that.
spend. Yeah.
I like that because I find it hard to find time to brew
Mhm.
myself. I
Right.
love doing it, but like there's so much good beer out there, and I'm gonna steal that and say, yeah, I'm reinvesting my
There you
homebrew
go.
budget into my local craft breweries and
That's
the
it.
industry of itself. And it's hard when you taste a great beer. You're like, man, dude, I would just rather drink this than I messed up something doing homebrew
Right.
somewhere. Do you still judge homebrew stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, as much as I can, which isn't as often as I would like, but I still do.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's something I'd like to do myself is get certified and do that kind of things. I think that's awesome. And I love the homebrew thing. I love the homebrew clubs and I just don't have the time to brew all the time, but judging would be super fun. So
Sure, sure.
yeah,
Yeah, you
nice.
get to taste all the everybody else's beer.
Yeah, exactly.
None of
And
your own sweat.
folks come up with creative things, man. Some of the best beer I've ever had has been folks homebrewing something. I think the best like coconut porter I've ever had is somebody homebrewed it and did this cool stuff with toasted coconut. Tastes. I've been chasing that same coconut porter for like years now and have
Yeah,
yet to find it out in the market. So, cheers to the homebrewers that are out there.
absolutely. And they're killing it. Yeah, doing a great
Yeah.
job.
So, tell me about the Beer Hall of Fame. So, this is a relatively new-ish project, right? I think your inaugural year was 2025. Am I getting that
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So what
We
led you to that? Why that and what's the story there?
it came about in kind of a weird way. In late 2023, I was just, thinking stuff, thinking beer, thinking industry, like I always do. And it occurred to me out of nowhere, it's like, hey, did anybody ever, is there a Hall of Fame? Did anybody ever create one? Anyone even discuss creating one? So I
Hmm.
went on the internet immediately and did multiple searches over multiple days and came up zero. I found nothing, and it completely confounded me. I couldn't believe it. So I figured somebody's got to do something about this. So I kind of made a hasty list of 40, 50 people I knew in the industry. I contacted them and I said, hey, I can't be wrong here. Have you guys heard of anything? Have you guys even considered anything like this? And the answer kept on coming back. We've never heard of anything. We've never considered anything. So, and they said, run with it. It's your baby. Go. And so I said, fine, I will take this on. Can I depend on you as my advisors? I'm going to need people to help steer this project as we go along. And so now those 40-ish people are the ones that I call they're the advisory board.
Hmm.
And out of those people, we also selected people to become the directors. So now we have a board of directors. And as board of directors, we still rely on these advisors to help us get through tough situations, tough questions. It's a steering committee, helping us navigate where to go from here. But on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, it's the board of directors who are making all the decisions now.
Hmm.
So yes, we did have our first inaugural induction back in February of last year. We have our second one coming up in a little over a month, February 28th.
Oh wow, it's coming up very soon.
Yes, it is.
All right. Yeah. I was surprised myself when, we got the chance to connect with you and I pulled up the information on the Craft Beer Hall of Fame. I was like, oh, wow, this is relatively new. And similar to you, I'm kind of like, face palming and being like, oh, I didn't believe this could not exist before.
Right.
But excellent idea. Champion you
Thank you.
or props to you for getting it going. What were like, the what was the process in figuring out like what even qualifies you to be in the craft beer hall of fame and like how did you come to that decision on the quality? Well, I guess what are those stipulations if you don't mind summarizing, and then what led you to the decision to make those the stipulations?
Well, we currently have a list of stipulations that we were more or less forced to put into place. Because I'm going to back up just a little bit. When
Sure.
we contacted all of our advisors to come up with nominees, the names of nominees to put on the ballot, we realized that because our advisors were across the country, we were getting a very, very diverse list of people. And we noticed there was a lot of regionality going on. Somebody from
Mhm.
the East Coast, they were nominating all East Coast people and West Coast and, Midwest. And so we realized that we needed to come up with a set of parameters to help guide this process of nominating. And what we came up with, and I'm not going to be able to remember the entire list verbatim, but first of all, any nominee has to have been in the industry a minimum of 10 years. So they can't be some fly by night person who existed for a couple of years and made his dollars. Um, they have to be a known entity. People have to know him or her. Um, they have to, whatever it is they contributed to the industry, has to be measurable, whether it was a process or a beer style or anything that created something of value to the industry at large. Um, that has to be measurable. And I know there's a couple more that I'm not remembering, but yeah, we now have those parameters in place to make sure that nominations, from here on out, make more sense. We're not getting these wild lists of people that a lot of us don't know.
Yeah, I could see that being a factor there, and it would be regional, right? Like if you're like, yeah, we're in Chicago, we know these folks, and they felt like they were, because we're by proximity,
Mhm.
uh, know of this person or these folks, then yeah, but widen that lens to the entire United States, and maybe that's a good question. Is like, is this United States based or this like global? Uh,
It's strictly United States. It's the American Craft Beer Hall of Fame.
got it. Okay,
Yep.
that's awesome.
However, I would like to point out that even though somebody may have been born in a foreign country, if they meet those other parameters, they are still more than welcome in the hall. And one very good example is Michael Jackson. He's from England, but what he contributed to the American craft beer industry by his works, um, there's no reason why he shouldn't be in. And in fact, he was one of the inaugural inductees. Another person who has appeared on the nomination forms is oh geez, Pierre Celis. He
Okay.
was a Belgian, but he came here, created Celis Brewing Company, and popularized wheat beer.
Hmm.
So he is eligible to make the hall, although he hasn't yet.
Hmm. Yeah, so impact on American craft beer is kind of the vibe with it, and you don't necessarily have to be a natural born citizen or whatever, right?
Correct.
But if did you have a huge
Correct.
impact on American craft beer, and then you deserve some notoriety on here.
Absolutely. Yep.
Tell me about 2025 inductees, the inaugural set of inductees. Who stands out in that list to you as yeah, this was awesome person to add into here, and why?
Well, forgive me for saying this, but all of them.
All of them.
I am very pleased to have all of them. I mean, it's very difficult to overlook. There were 12 people, and it's hard to overlook them, knowing what they contributed. Fritz Maytag, uh, Jim Cook, Michael Jackson, as I mentioned, Jack McAuliffe, who opened New Albion, the very first of the microbreweries back in 1976, as well as his two partners that virtually nobody knows. Their names are Susie Stern and Jane Zimmerman.
Hmm.
So that's what I like about this is that we're shining the light on people who would not have otherwise received the spotlight they deserved.
And what happens when you're inducted here? So obviously there's mention of that. Like, do you have like a physical location where you keep records of some of this stuff, or what's like, okay, I'm in the Hall of Fame. Like, what happens basically?
We don't have a brick and mortar. Obviously that's part of our long-term goal, but that's several years down the road. For now, the hall exists online. We have the website. All of our inductees appear on the website along with their photos and their bios. And there's many different things on the website, but the main part of the hall is where the inductees reside. So everyone who is inducted gets their formal place on the website.
That's amazing. It
Mhm.
would be so cool to have a spot, like you have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which
Mm.
is kind of in your neck of the woods, Ohio, hop,
Right,
skip, and a
right,
jump away. And
right.
you got NFL, football
Mhm.
Hall of Fame, all these different Hall of Fames. And it'd be sweet to be able to walk through kind of a place and say, oh yeah, look at this photo. Here's some, equipment or cans or brands. And that kind of thing would be neat to see for sure.
Yeah, it's our long-term goal.
Where would you put it if you could choose? And I'm putting you on the spot here.
I personally would love to see it here in Chicago, but I'm not gonna, claim ownership of that. We're going to put it in a place in a larger town, city, whatever, that has a beer background, certainly one that has supported craft beer. So, I mean, there's a lot of different places that could be considered Asheville, Denver, Portland, Seattle, San
Yeah.
Diego. It could end up anywhere. But what it's going to come down to is funding.
Yeah.
We have to find a location and we have to find people who will financially support this project. So,
Yeah, you're right. Because you need, I mean, rent ain't cheap. It's not free.
no, by
But
no means.
Yeah, but getting the funding for it and some support with that would be amazing, and it would be so cool to see it. And I don't know, maybe some of the first steps could be like what is it, a traveling version of this where it pops up at certain locations throughout the year, or at CBC, or some of these other ones. Would be kind of neat to see a little pop-up expo. I
I
don't
absolutely
go in there,
love that
but
idea. And I love that you brought that up because it has been brought up by at least one other person. But I think you guys are onto something for real. I think it's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to store the stuff and bring it around, but like
Hmm.
it'd be kind of neat to see
Sure.
some of those things at times throughout the year. But now we're headed into 2026, and you said the announcement's coming up in February.
On the 28th, Saturday the 28th, yes.
Nice. How are you going to put it out there? Is it going to be like a live stream, or are you
It
doing it at
is
a
going
conference?
it is going to be a live stream. Most of it is going to be pre-recorded just because it's a lot cleaner to present it that way. Last year we did it live. I mean,
Yeah.
100% live, and it was a little bit glitchy, and we realized that that probably wasn't the best thing, at least not in our inaugural year. So this year we're going to streamline it a little bit more. We're going to pre-record most of it, but it will be presented in a live stream. We do have 4 official watch parties across the country, at breweries across the country. Round Trip in Atlanta, Breakside in Portland, Oregon, Hailstorm here in the Chicago area, and Dogfish Head out in Milton, Delaware.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you got to do to be able to be an official watch party? I think some breweries maybe would want to get in on this.
Oh, we would actually love more brewers to get in on it. The reason why it's only limited to these 4 right now is strictly because of our personnel. We only have enough people to be present at these 4 locations, serving as an official
Hmm.
member of the hall. If other breweries want to get involved, by all means, we welcome them. We'd love to have hundreds, but we can't personally oversee that number. That's all.
Well, maybe some folks listening here would be like, "Oh, we can turn it on. Might as well live stream it and have it going." And
Love to see it happen.
yeah, that would be amazing. We'll definitely put it out there and reach out to Marty and be like, "Hey, we're gonna do it," because that would be
Go
super
for it.
fun. Nice. So, okay, can you tell us anything about the nominees for 2026?
Sure, sure. That's public knowledge. We've actually put that out. It's been out over a month now. And this year we have 10 nominees. Uh, in alphabetical order, there are Charles Bamforth, Larry Bell, Sam Calagione, Ray Daniels, Terry Ferendorf, Kim Jordan, Garrett Oliver, Pete Schlossberg, Mitch Steele, and Carol Stout.
Okay.
So another pretty damn good slate, I would say.
Nice. Well, hopefully they make it through and
Uh,
we see him on there. What do you think is some of the big differences between, your process, or, maybe talk about selection process or who was nominated in 2025 versus 2026? What's changed and what's updated, do you think?
well, we kind of talked about the parameters in
Mhm.
the nomination process. So that was a change. It didn't really have quite the effect that I thought it would, but over time, I'm confident it will. What I think is very interesting is last year we had 19 people nominated, 12 inducted.
Mm.
Almost every single one of this year's nominees were nominees last year also, which means that the advisors have been very, very consistent in wanting to get these same people in the hall.
Mm.
A couple dropped off from last year and a couple more have been added, but almost to a person, I would say about 8 or 9 of these 12 were on the ballot last year as well.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay.
yeah.
Keep swinging,
Yep.
at it. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Nice. Fun, 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 fun. So February coming up. It's going to be
Hmm.
live streamed, and we'll be excited to see who gets in. And yeah, what do you think the future looks like? Is kind of February going to be the time every year that you put this out? So early in the year in 2027 and beyond, and what do you see the future looking like for the Craft Beer Hall of Fame beyond this year?
Well, as far as timing, we have had many discussions about this, and we feel that we wanted to take advantage of the winter months because people are kind of cooped up, and at least those of us in the north. Uh,
Yeah.
um, and of course, it has to be post Super Bowl. We
Mhm.
needed to avoid that. We didn't want to be in the doldrums, the post-holiday doldrums, so early January didn't work. The closer we got to Super Bowl, we were afraid that people would be too distracted. So now it's the post-Super Bowl. There's nothing going on. So we thought that
Yeah.
this was our sweet spot.
The dregs of February.
Yeah, exactly. So we're probably going to stay with this idea.
That
As far
works.
as future, right now, obviously, this is the real bread and butter of the Hall of Fame. It's all about the people. It's about the personal inductees that are going into the hall. But we're trying to come up with new things. Because this is a once a year thing, we're
Mhm.
trying to come up with new things that keep people more interested and involved throughout the other 11 months of the year. So
Mm.
last year, we started something called Landmark Beers. We are now setting aside time to discuss those beers that deserve to get a place in the hall. Last year,
Mm.
we put in our first 5 landmark beers, and you can find all that information on the website. So we'll be
Yes.
doing that again in August, and we have another initiative where we are going to approach all the individual craft brewers guilds in all of the 50 states and encourage them and do what we can to support them in opening up their own state halls of fame. We already know that several of them have it. I believe Virginia does. I know Oregon does. I think possibly Washington does. But we want to help to encourage all 50 states to get their own halls of fame. And we will do what we can to support their efforts.
Yeah, I hear these stories about, somebody's been a president of a Brewers Association for like 15 years or something like that, and they've given their life to the Brewers Association, so to speak. And
Hmm.
they deserve a little bit of cred, right?
Sure.
And it'd be cool to kind of atomize down your organizations. Hey, look, this is part of that. It's connected. We give a space to promote these things, and at the state
Hmm.
level, maybe they're maybe one day national level they would make it in or into the big Hall of Fame. But hey, man, you're doing great things for the state of Washington, state of Texas, state of Nevada, state of whatever.
Hmm.
You should get some recognition for that. Love the idea with the guilds too. There's probably a cool neck or a cool road to go down with that guild representation and what folks have done
Correct.
to get legislation passed. And there's been some big hallmark things that have happened in that history of craft beer. Love the beer concept too, and saying these beers are landmark important beers
Yep.
that have happened throughout the history of craft beer here, and we should give some notoriety to them too. Probably
Yeah, they,
beers
they
that
need to be
people,
recognized.
yeah, they really should. What beers do you think fit that? Well, I know I'm looking at the website right now too. I'm trying to see what I want to pull up some of these. Uh,
If you go to the blog and just go
got
back a
it.
couple of posts, you should see it. I think it was in August,
Got it. Okay.
the August blog post. Um,
Yeah, here we go.
Anchor's Anchor Steam was one of them. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale was one of them.
Yeah, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, Sam Adams Boston Lager, Anchor
Yeah,
Steam, and Celis White. It's what
yeah,
beer. And
yeah.
Anchor Liberty Ale is in there.
Mhm.
Yeah, important styles. You're right, man. This is gonna be fun to see evolve over time and who makes it in there. You talked about participation and like folks getting involved with
Mhm.
the Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
Notice you guys have like sponsorship opportunities.
Correct.
You have like a board of directors and stuff like that. Like, what are the ways to get involved if you wanted to?
Well, depending on who the person wanting to be involved is, if you're already in the industry, we can get you on as an advisor. We'd be more than happy to take some more people on as advisors. We also have the electorate, which is the board of electors, which is another 50 or so people who get to vote. They don't have a say in how we do things, but they do get to vote.
Mm,
So we have well over 100 people who are voting on every time we put out a vote. But the rank and file, the people, the average Joe who's a consumer, we also want to get them involved too. So that's another initiative for 2026. We want to be putting out more surveys to get more people's feedback, particularly in this situation with the landmark beers. We want to open this up to the general public. We want to get everybody's voice in on this.
mm,
We do have to be a little bit careful though, because we could be looking at thousands and thousands of people weighing in. So it's a
yeah.
little difficult to survey that number.
Yeah. Managing that much data is
Y-
is
Yeah,
challenging.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just the technology you'll need to run. It's not too crazy, right? You could probably do some stuff. There's some survey systems that are out there.
We currently work with Survey Monkey. That's
Mm,
our that's currently the one that we are using. We're very happy with them. Haven't We haven't really tested their limits yet. We just might this year.
yeah. Yeah, I think part of the challenge too will be like, the qualification of the person submitting that voting, right?
Mhm.
And I think of like, we untapped and like that whole system and how those beers get ranked and those type of things. It's like, well, does this person know beer? How well do they know it? And you kind of have to qualify those things with the voting to make sure that it's accurate, right?
Right,
So
right.
you don't get a bunch of, yeah, Bud Light's the greatest beer of all time, right, or whatever, right? Not to say it isn't, right, but I won't make that opinion. But I could see some craft brewers being upset by something like that. An extreme example, but um, yeah, that sounds fun to get the populace involved. It
Mhm.
sounds like board of directors and voting is part of this equation. Sponsorships too for fundraising, and do you guys have like a charitable, like you can make donations to the,
If if you're still on the website and you find
yeah.
the tab that says support us, we provide information. We are a 501c3, not-for-profit, incorporated or corporation, I should say, and we do provide opportunity. We make it very easy to just click on the links. We have PayPal, Cash App, and the third one I'm not remembering.
Looks like Venmo.
There
You've
you
got
go. Yeah, Venmo. Yep,
very hip. Venmo makes it easy.
yep. That's the
Everybody
idea.
Venmos now.
Yep.
Nice. Nice. And his charitable organization you can donate to,
Tax
and
deductible.
tax deductible. Absolutely. Man, there's just some fun stuff. Getting some of these guilds involved, some of the brewers could be like, yeah, we're gonna do a festival and we're gonna donate part of this to the Hall of Fame and that kind of thing. It's about getting people aware of it and knowing what's going on. And hopefully this podcast helps,
Hopefully.
stuff. Right on, right on. Well, let's come back to you a little bit, Marty, to kind of bring us home and get us back to your day and wrap things up. What's going on in your world? You got any new books you're working on? Any new other initiatives besides the Hall of Fame? What's going on with you?
Well, the most recent book I published is called The Beer Story Project. It was self-published. I just released it in late November, just after Thanksgiving,
Mm,
and it's been doing very well. The concept behind it, as the title suggests, it was a passion project of mine. Um, I realized that as I get older and others in the industry get older, and some of them are becoming sick and some have died, that we're losing the stories, we're losing the history of this industry. So it was my goal with this beer story project to kind of gather as many stories as I could. So I put the word out to about 100 different industry contacts and said, look, I would like any people in the industry to send me their stories. I said, just pretend like you and me are sitting at a bar. Tell me your story. I'm sure you have a good one to tell or many to tell. And I'm very grateful to say that many people did respond. I have some great stories in here. Early days, um, funny stuff, poignant stuff, interesting stuff. historical stuff, and I think it turned out very well. I'm pleased with it, and on
Nice.
the heels of doing that, I'm now toying with the idea of doing another book. This one is strictly for homebrewers.
Mm.
As a home brewer, I know I have some funny stories to tell or interesting stories to tell. And I know that of the thousands of home brewers in the United States, I'm sure there are plenty of other interesting or funny or, crazy stories to tell also. So now I'm going to tap into that because, as we know, home brewing was the basis of craft brewing in the early days.
Mhm.
So now I want to tap into that. And I think that has the makings of another good book.
That would be super fun. I'm sure there's tons of stories on the home brewing front. Excited to see that come out. I'm looking at the Beer Story Project on Amazon right now. I will probably buy this thing before I wrap up today. I'll do my one-click order and get it into onto my bookshelf and check it out. And you've got other books that are out there too. Like I said, I'll keep using that word legend on here. You're published, man. You're legit. Nice.
It's
Well,
been a few years.
yeah, you've done some stuff. You've done some things.
Yep.
Nice. Will we see you around this year at some of the conferences? You can be at CBC, anything like that?
Probably not. It's hard for me to justify the travel. I'm not really plugged into the industry at that level. I'm more about the consumer, and I'm more
Hmm.
about gathering information on the history and the past of the industry. CBC doesn't really lend itself to that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would love to be there. I can't justify it. That's all.
Yeah, it's expensive, and
Yeah.
coming from Las Vegas this year, I got to make my trip all the way out to Philly and across the
Yeah.
country and flights, and hotel, and all these things.
Mm.
But for the folks on the East Coast, it's really easy for you.
Sure.
Good for
Sure.
you. But for us over on the West Coast, it's a pain. But we'll be there. If you end up going, we should totally hang out. And yeah, man. And if I'm in Chicago, which we end up somewhere in the Midwest
Hmm.
every year or so. So look you up. What else, man? Is there anything else you want to let us know, let our audience know, how they can get in touch with you, how they can get involved, anything you're looking for, anything we can do for you, Marty?
You've already done a lot for me. Thank you very much. If anybody wants to find me, I'm pretty easy to find on social media, Facebook, Instagram. I don't know if beer people are on Threads, LinkedIn. I'm out there.
You're out there. We will put links to the Craft Beer Hall of Fame website. We'll put links to the Beer Story Project book out there. We'll put links to Marty's social handles and that kind of stuff so you get in touch with him. And that they'll all be in the show notes. So in our blog articles and all that stuff. So check that out, and encourage you to reach out and get involved with the American Craft Beer Hall of Fame. Make a donation, see what's going on, pay attention, tune into the live stream in February 28th again, right?
Correct. Yep. Yep.
What time of day? Do you know?
Here's the situation. Because we're cross country, it's going to go live on the East Coast at 3, Chicago at 2,
Mm-hmm.
Denver at 1, and Portland at noon.
Okay. All right. So what do they do? Is three Eastern,
Yes. Yep.
12 Pacific. There we go. We'll
Correct.
tune in
Yep.
for that too. And yeah, Marty, this has been so awesome. Thank you for your time and for your expertise and your contribution to the industry. I hope we get a chance to talk again soon. And
You as
it's been
well.
a pleasure, man.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate the time. Thank you for having me on.
Cheers.
Cheers.